right, good morning. This is a special pregame episode of the Hothead Podcast with Silas Miller. We're outside the Miller house here in a very special weekend. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. Happy rivalry week and happy playing week. This is not something that happens every single year. I'm here with my father and one of the best coaches of all time, Shawn Miller, head coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions. Thanks for being here, Shawn. Round of applause for Shawn.
It's good to be here. Excited. Cold.
Yes, very cold out here. We're going to try and get this going as quick as possible. Start talking about some of the games and stuff. But very excited, trying to fight off the cold this morning. So let's talk about the matchups this morning. You got a game this morning against the Ole Miss Rebels coming into State College. Any game plan this week?
Well, first, it's been a difficult season. We started out well and then struggled in the middle of the season and trying to end strong here going into next year. Listen, Davie, one of the top teams right now in our league, just had a big win against Missouri, against you last week. So knowing he's trying to keep momentum going into the postseason, but he's already clinched. It's one of those games we got to get in to finish the season, but excited about the opportunity and feel if I play well, I give myself a chance, and you just never know. So excited about it, and we'll give it everything we have.
Yeah, it's just one of those games, it's like one of those games at the end of the season where it's like you've already clinched, you're in. It's like you just try to avoid like something big happening, like you want to go into the playoffs with like a sort of confidence, and I think that's what he's aiming to do today. And you're trying to play spoiler to that. So
well, and I think in our league too, every team is looking for an advantage, and if there's some way that I can stop him, specifically his passing game, it may help other teams, moving forward against Ole Miss. But right now, Davie's been in the title game the last 2 years. He's a champion last year, and definitely a team that he's gonna be tough out. There's no doubt about that. The next couple of weeks.
Yeah, both teams today, they both have a 7-4 in their record. Penn State obviously not having the year they wanted, but then, Ole Miss was a team early on that started the year 1-3, and it's kind of similar to last year, the way they came out with an 0-3 start. And it's like, well, we don't really know the identity of this team, and then to see them kind of just like take shape throughout the season, and then they're all the way up to 7-4 with a chance to be 8-4. They're a 9.5-point spread, kind of a large spread today. I know you took distaste to that, I think, a little bit yesterday, but the game's on the road. You never know. Davie hasn't won by a wide margin much this year, but Ole Miss with the win at Missouri, I think Vegas likes them a little bit this week. Well,
yeah, and in the game that we played the first time around, it was a 7-point spread. He beat me by 7. I had a chance in the end zone late in the game, couldn't convert. I like my chances today. I know that Vegas might not see that way, people on the outside, but people in my locker room know that that's a possibility, so we're excited.
Yeah, it was cool, and I saw in a State College, it was like a local interview, they had you on, and you said you're just going to let the ball fly. I think today is the day where, he told some local newscasts, he said, we're just going to trust you out today, and you're just going to let the ball fly. That's exciting. That's good to hear, and we're excited to see where the future of Penn State goes. We're trying to get, you're trying to get them back on track, and we're excited for you and stuff. So it starts today. It starts to end the year strong. You're going to play in a bowl game. That's exciting. I think the game's the Orange Bowl this year. So looks like you're going to be able to play one of the playing members today. So
yeah, I think sometimes when you don't have anything to lose, you play a little loose. Good things can happen. But then, opportunity to get that extra game in against the loser of today's game. That'd be disappointing for them, but a good opportunity for us.
Yeah, and then let's talk about some of those play-in teams today. So both teams are ranked number 4. That's not something that usually happens, but with both teams at 6-6, it seemed right to have both teams ranked number 4. They split against each other. Last week's game was really close, and that's another thing that hasn't happened too much in this league is when there's a play-in game. Sometimes, like when Oregon played Penn State, they played back-to-back. And it's one of those things where not a lot of teams play each other back-to-back in the season. And so how do you think they go into something like that, just playing a 10-9 grudge match last weekend?
Well, yeah, you look at that game, really low scoring, a lot of opportunities missed on both ends. So I think, both teams feel like they should have won. And I think you have to look at that, and then having to play back-to-back can be a challenge. It can also be something where if you really game plan well, you can really, really jump on the other team and get to victory. But I think with those two teams, they're so evenly matched. There's some inconsistencies on both ends, but also the addition to the play-in game is that you get that extra game. And I know Penn State of 2020, that extra game really came into effect where they were able to then kind of ride the next couple into the title. So, I think both of those teams can take advantage of that. And then having to play the winner plays Tyler, I think, that can really be something for them if they can find something that's really working for them at that time. But that extra game, if you can ever get a game in that really means something and be successful in it, that's a big advantage, I think, going against Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think things to note about this game today, it's in a Superdome. The league did a really good job finding a neutral site for both these teams. Texas and Georgia, right in the middle, would be New Orleans. It's a good spot for them, the Sugar Bowl. It's a good way to get the postseason going. And Vegas likes them by 1.5 today. But if you look at Texas, we'll start with them because this is a team that has lost about 4 in a row, not counting a game in between with LSU. And it's hard to count a team that didn't win a game this year. And so they obviously handled that. But this is a team that's really flaking down the stretch. And Georgia has actually won a few games here. I know they took down, I think it was, who did they beat? They beat LSU, which I know we can't count that because we didn't count it for Texas, but they also beat Georgia. So that's 2 wins compared to Texas, who's really struggled down the stretch. But do you see any path for Georgia today?
Well, again, I think just going back to the site of it, the Superdome, it's a neutral field. It's indoors. You get into December, late November, and you just want them to both have the same opportunity. It's halfway in between both campuses, and being split down the middle ticket-wise, I think that's important. But then looking at Georgia, I just don't think you can count him out, especially the defense. Defensively, he has been able to really have some good games, and they say championships are won by defense, and I think you have to look at that. I think Owen, with his inconsistencies on offense, if he gets down early, could be a real challenge because it's hard for him with his passing game. But, hey, listen, I think if he can keep it close, I think Georgia's got a really good opportunity to win those back-to-back.
Yeah, and I think some of the flashiest moments of the league have been on the offensive side of the ball, and sometimes it gets overlooked how good Georgia's been defensively. They've had a few hiccups. I think the game in Columbus was kind of a turning point when it came to Georgia's confidence when they got pushed around in Columbus. But you look at their defense, and they've played really well. They had Missouri held for a half twice. It really does help a defense when the offense can be on the field for so long. With ETN running the ball, they can be on the field for almost a quarter sometimes, and that really helps. But on defense, you look at a guy who's so underrated like Malachi Starks, who's won 3 Player of the Weeks on the defensive side. Smail Munden, Michael Williams, those are all really good players that he has on that defense, and that's how he won some of those games, like the first week against Ohio State, which, looking back, boy, what an important win right in the beginning of the season. You win those games, and one game at a time, and you find yourself at 6-6, and you got a chance to go to the playoffs, and that was huge for him. So, yeah, I think it really seems like the bounce of the ball today. This game is going to be really hard to predict for a lot of fans, but it's really exciting because that's what a play-in's all about. It's 2 even teams going at it for that 4th playoff spot. But one thing I want to ask you, Shawn, what is if you were to predict what's the team with the outcome, what would be the team that has the best chance to take down the vaunted Ohio State Buckeyes? What team do you say, if they got there, would have the better chance? Would it just be a confidence thing with both, or you think, you would take someone who is an offense like Texas to beat Ohio State? Well,
just on paper, I would go with Texas. I think the coaching of Eli, I think sometimes based off of his track record the last couple of years, when he really wants to turn it on, he can. He has had some inconsistencies. I think a lot of that has to do with his offensive and defensive lines this year, kind of getting those adjusted correctly. But Eli is a tough out, and when push comes to shove and it's the playoffs, if it's a play-in game, it's going to be tough to beat him. I give that, if I had to put someone, either Texas or Georgia, to go up against Ohio State and be successful, I would go with Texas initially. But again, the defensive aspect of Georgia really plays into a lot of that. And that, Georgia already beat Ohio State once this year. So I think you have to look at both. It'll be interesting to see. But Ohio State is 9-3, big wins down the stretch, 7 wins in a row, which is very difficult in our league. So right now, I mean, whoever wins is going to be, definitely an underdog, and Ohio State's going to be a tough out. I just think right now all pistons are firing for them offensively. Coach Tyler knows what he's doing, and then defensively, they do a great job of stopping the run. They do a great job in pass defense, and he gets the balls to his playmakers on offense. So he's done a good job of spreading that around. Will Howard's been excellent for him this year, put up some really, really good numbers. But if we could, if Ohio State ends up winning and having, 6 different champions in 6 years, really says a lot about our league and the way that it's progressed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such an interesting case when it comes to these teams against Ohio State because, yes, Georgia, which feels like so long ago, beat Ohio State to start the season in Athens, and then Texas has been so awfully close to beating Ohio State this year. I mean, you look at the game where there was a mismanagement of the clock late in the game, and like that the streak that Ohio State's on wouldn't even be a thing anymore if that game ended the way it should have, and Texas had won. So, yes, Georgia has won a game against Ohio State this year, but it just feels like Texas is knocking on that door. So I definitely agree with that. And I think one thing you want to take into account is the fact that Owen hasn't taken a team to the playoffs in almost 4 years. He hasn't been on that stage in a very long time. You look at his bowl game last year; didn't do so well, even with the streak that he had at Florida State. So, you would like to take a team that has a coach that has won 40 games and has played to a level that's won a national championship and has been to a national championship game. And I think if Eli gets there, I think he can't forget the loss last year in the Rose Bowl and what a fight that was, and to maybe get an opportunity to play Davey or Silas again would be something that he would look forward to. So I'm sure that's a driving motivator for them. But boy, it's going to be an exciting game today. Yeah, it really goes to the strength of our league. It goes to the health of our league, how far we've come, expanding this year, having that 7th team, 12-game season. We started this mid-August. Here we are in November, and things have really lined up. And it's just exciting about the league and where it's at, the excitement that it's brought. The media, the stream we've had has been better than ever. Our index, we have just really taken the next step for the health of our league, and exciting as we move forward. Yeah, and I totally, absolutely agree with that. It's been very fun. I think one thing to note is how competitive it's gotten late in the season. You look at a team like Missouri who looked like they were teetering on maybe 11 wins, 12 wins, and not a team's going to get over 10 wins or 9 wins. No one's going to hit double-digit wins in the regular season, which is really cool to see because there hasn't been many years where there's two teams that have won 9 games and then one that's potentially going to win 8 games, and the winner of the play-in will have a winning record. It's just really, really cool to see, and a lot of winners this year. And part of that is obviously what happened in Baton Rouge. That helps. That's a lot of wins added to teams' totals, but the competitiveness is at an all-time high too. And but each coach, I think there's a brotherhood that sticks, and like everyone roots for each other and roots against each other, and there's a respect, and everybody is, I think the maturity has grown, and everyone is getting along too. And it's really become an annual staple for this family. So pretty exciting to see. So let's go over the rankings real quick, just as they stand right now. At the top of the table, you now have Ohio State, who has jumped Missouri. They're 9-3 on a 7-game win streak, as Dad said. Pretty impressive resume. They're going to be the top overall seed. It's really interesting. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. It's really interesting to see where they're going to choose to go play their bowl game. The top seed, if you don't know this, gets to go choose where they play. This year it's the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl. So Ohio State will be number 1. And then number 2 is going to be the Missouri Tigers at 9-3 as well. Kind of on a rough patch. I know they're trying to regroup after 2 losses in a row. They're 9-3. They were at the top of the table for 7 straight weeks after going on a 7-game win streak. And then it's the Ole Miss Rebels who play this morning. They're 7-4. Good season as well. This is kind of exactly what Davey Haydu does every single year. He kind of stays right there in the middle, and then he'll break out in the playoffs. And I think Missouri is trying to show that to their players and make sure that doesn't happen again. And then number 4 is both Texas and Georgia, who will square off today for that final spot. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I think when you look at bowl matchups, I think if you're Ohio State and you're the one that gets to choose, you got to look at who you're playing. If you're playing Georgia, I'm not going to the Peach Bowl. I'm going to go out west. If I'm playing Ole Miss, I'm probably not going to the Peach Bowl. So I would imagine, based off of some of that. Now, if he plays Texas, maybe he heads down that way and sends Ole Miss and Missouri out to the Fiesta Bowl, which would be a rematch. It would be a rematch of that epic USC Oklahoma State game from a couple years ago. So I think Ohio State's got to look at all of that. But it depends on the play-in game. So we're still undetermined on a lot of that when the seedings come out later today. Where Ohio State picks will be interesting. But no matter what, both matchups will be epic.
Yeah, and I think another thing to note is the fact that Ole Miss and Missouri is completely locked up. Because Ole Miss beat Texas twice and Ole Miss split with a Georgia team that has more losses than them, Ole Miss will be playing Missouri, and that'll be the third year in a row that these two coaches square off in the same dome or stadium to play in a semifinal or a national championship game. And the past 2 years, it's been Dave Haydu who's gotten the best of Silas. And I think I'll just speak for myself, because I think there's a lot of teams that are, or a lot of coaches that are looking at me and saying, I'm just not sure now. Like, what's going on? Well, there was a narrative for a while saying, I couldn't win a semifinal game. And I proved everyone wrong last year when I beat a Michigan team that looked like they were destined for a championship. And that would be back-to-back for Eli. And I found a way to get that done. And I promise you I'm going to find a way to beat Ole Miss. I promise you. I'm gonna get to national championship.
That's a strong guarantee.
Well, for Missouri fans, the performance you saw last week at home is not what you're going to see in the playoffs. I can assure you that. So,
trending down, trending up. We got different stories, so we'll see.